The year is 1973. A computer program called Maze War is being shown off at the NASA Ames Research Center. It links two computers. Each controls an eyeball. The goal is to find the other eyeball in the maze and kill it first. This timeless classic is probably not so groovy nowadays. Fast forward 2 decades. Archaic computer programs evolve into video games, become complex, and get coded in color. It's 1992. Wolfenstein 3D is out. Many say this started the first-person shooter genre. Then, in 1993...
Doom. I see.
It ain't nothing like hip-hop music.
It's groundbreaking and insanely successful. It set the standard so much, reviewers called any other mid-90s FPS a Doom clone. I guess Doom was never considered a Wolfenstein clone, but you know, that's fine. It's August 1995. Look what's landed on Saturn, a Doom clone in space. Robotica is the first Doom clone to hit the American Sega Saturn. It's made by Micronet, a Japanese team. Acclaim brought it over to the US states. Is this exclusive the killer app Sega needs? Or is it more bland repetition, hiding in the shadows of its successors? In 2077, Earth's governments collapse. To keep planetary order, the World Silent Security Service builds Daedalus. It carries an army of robots to keep peace on Earth and its outer orbit.
The global state system had been designed to unify mankind.
This is what it sounds like when you don't properly balance your
the
order. 800 years later, the working class decides to get robot government off their back. That's you! Both of your friends got killed on the way to Daedalus. Now you, the sole survivor, have to destroy the Daedalus ship from the inside of your Chinese and/or Japanese mech suit. There are 30 floors. Each floor randomly generates itself when you start Robotica. This guarantees a slightly new experience every time you play the game. They also regenerate when you die. There's no saving, but it appears to have unlimited continues. On most floors, your goal is to find the key and get to the exit door. Since levels are randomly generated, finding these can either be insanely easy or really hard. One time, I had a key spawn right in front of the exit door at the start of the level. Other times, I spent 20 minutes triple checking every room for the damn key. It sort of camouflaged itself into the corner. Your map shows you what rooms you've already explored. Helpful, since these bland environments are really easy to get lost in. There's always a computer that gives you a complete map somewhere along the way. Every now and then, you run into floors where the objective is to destroy generators instead of finding a key. Some floors start you out with the lights turned off. You gotta stare at the enemy radar to avoid getting hit, shooting aimlessly into the shadows every time an orange dot pops up. At first, I thought this gave Robotica a good sense of suspense, but the gimmick can get old pretty quick. When you find the map computer, the lights turn back on. But even with lit up rooms, the draw distance barely makes it to the other side. Yep, another 5th gen game with draw distance issues. Color me surprised. Even with this relatively short draw distance, the frame rate almost never stays at the normal 30 frames per second. It sometimes doesn't even make it to 20. Robotica suffers from lots of constant slowdown. I got so used to the slowdown that it felt like the game's normal speed after a while, so I guess it isn't a problem? This genre is designed around using the keyboard and mouse, so now it has to work on controllers somehow. No second analog stick, you guys. Hell, there isn't even one analog stick. As a result, enemies and levels are catered around making this a viable option. You never have to aim up or down, and bad guys have pretty large hitboxes, so that helps. Movement controls work pretty well in Robotica, and in true Doom clone fashion, strafing is faster than going straight. My one gripe with the otherwise good controls. There's no turnaround button. Your Vulcan is the standard shooter. Lasers are more powerful, but its ammo is harder to find. Missiles home in on your target and deal pretty heavy damage. Certain items power up your weapons for the rest of the playthrough, so that's pretty cool. There's also items that power down your weapons. This is dumb. The energy bar down here is used for your suit's secondary powers. This includes the plasma barrier, which is by far the most useful one. These hulls are pretty narrow, so dodging bullets is nearly impossible. You'll need the shield handy pretty much all the time. On some floors, ammo is super hard to find. This forces you to conserve ammo. Don't rely on the melee arm. It's weak. Enemy variety is solid. Harder robo baddies are introduced as you progress, while familiar faces change color and get more aggressive. They are forward-facing 2D textures. We'll see full polygon bad guys in a different Doom clone. This electronica music fits the atmosphere of the ship pretty well. Turn it up until you can physically feel the bass ripple through your body. There's some kind of time limit. You don't get to see what it is. I haven't figured out how long it is either, but if you wait too long, these frightening bug sweepers come out. They move extremely fast, do lots of damage, and can go through walls. If these come out before you know where the key and exit doors are, it's time to accept death's sweet embrace. You probably won't make it. Video games usually feel like you versus the developers. They set up the puzzles, the obstacles, and objectives, while you find the solution. It's all predetermined, a set course. But Robotica truly feels like you versus Deadless. This living spaceship is constantly messing with the player's head. It's always changing. The patterns of each floor are barely predictable. Sometimes you spawn right on top of those deadly red tiles. Sometimes you navigate vast corridors battling robot after robot before realizing, if I just turned left at the start of the level, I'd have found that key in less than 30 seconds. The thought of when will the sweepers come out constantly loom over your head. Darkness leaves you on edge. There's no way of knowing where anything is most of the time. Just survive. Survive and explore. Get killed, do it again. No matter how many times you get to that golden elevator door, there's no way of knowing what lies on the other side. The ship is alive. The game is alive. Micronet created a living program. It's thinking. It knows you. It knows what you're thinking. Shouldn't have agreed to that privacy policy, motherfucker. I think Robotika's a good game. This is apparently a hot take. Magazine writers of the time were 50-50 on Robotica. Many retrospective reviews call it repetitive, generic, and a bad attempt. When you take a critical look at the design aspects, they're not entirely wrong. The walls and objectives are in fact repetitive and do not change much at all throughout the whole game. Lots of gray and brown and gray and brown and gray and brown. All that said, I personally think the gameplay is really fun. It certainly has its flaws, but I don't think one single 2 to 3 hour playthrough feels too drawn out. To enjoy Robotica, you need to be in the mood for an arcade-type game. But this doesn't mean it's one of the Saturn's best. Chairman Sega thinks it needs a little more oomph. He knows it wants to be like the song Opticon by Orgy really, really badly, but it's more like some bullshit by Renegade Soundwave. After a few fun hours in this romp through space, he grew tired of Robotica and was ready to move on. It's good? In an era with sci-fi games like System Shock, it's really hard to forgive Robotica's flaws. I would love to play a PC port with long draw distance, mouse controls, and a constant frame rate, but this will probably never happen. I still enjoyed it though, good game, but it suffers from being on a console.